Even though Kislev's casters are limited in terms of the lores of magic they can bring, they are some of the best casters I've ever seen in terms of being kind of hybrid combat caster characters. Having the ability to take the bear does give them a pretty big upside. 75 armor is definitely fantastic, while 285 weapon strength is not amazing. Over 300 is actually not great. 50 charge bonus is still very solid. Not to mention, of course, they get to buy our blood passive. And the Lords of Magic they do get access to did get a little bit better. Of course, Lore of Tempest in particular got some buffs in the most recent patch to some of its spells. Today, though, I'm up against my patron Koops in our patron practice session, Slaanesh versus Kislev. I'm coming in heavy with the Boyar. The idea here is to have fun, unique lore that you don't see too much. Also got this bombardment that does a pretty good amount of damage, and heavy AP doesn't really apply here, but this is more what I'm going for. Expert charge defense plus 5 melee defense in an area of effect. That expert charge defense in particular, to help resist the high charge of infantry, is going to be pretty important. Pit of Shades, though, does get dropped on those Dawes Heart Guards. We get a big all-in with these cavalry. The Furies also rushing in here. I've got a big line of Horse Archers, Kossars, 4 Koops here. He's coming in with some Hellstriders, Heartseekers, the Furies. Of course, he's got a Herald as well. Tons of Marauders. He's got Hell Scourges and Spears all mixed in here. It's like 5 Hell Scourges, 3 Spears. Plus over here, some more Hellstriders, Neluris, and Seekers of Slaanesh. Basically, Koops following the multicaster theory here, which is definitely very strong, obviously, for Slaanesh. You might think Cultist, but actually both the Neluris and the Herald are quite strong characters, especially on horseback against Kislev, where they can hit very hard, and their massively fast speed allows them to stay out in front. But we're going to go ahead and drop some Hawks of Misha here. Unfortunately, my Patriarch is feeling the pain of the Herald, having taken a substantial amount of damage already, but we were able to pretty decisively win. That Hawks of Misha actually comes in, does some pretty solid damage to those Furies right there, which is just fantastic. Meanwhile, my front line of Kossar Spears is just kind of bracing here. They were doing some shooting. Now they're going to use their Spears in combat. They're not going to win against these Slaanesh Marauders, but they will be able to actually hold for a pretty decent amount of time, considering they're kind of a hybrid spear unit. We're going to drop that bombardment from the Boyar onto those Marauders, so we'll keep them in the foreground there. You can see it's like a little Uranan's Thunderbolt almost. Does a pretty good amount of damage there. Dawes Heart Guards also pushing through, just cleaning up a whole bunch of infantry. They haven't taken too much damage so far, thankfully, although more Pit of Shades are probably in order. Pits of Shades? I don't know. The Boyar also tangling now with the Alores, definitely taking the worst end of the engagement. The Alores' animations are very fast, and I don't know, I think maybe just RNG-wise I was getting punched pretty heavily here. In terms of sustained combat stats, the Alores definitely has better stats overall, 60-55 versus 55-45, so especially without the Patriarch within range to heal. Of course, he needs to be in melee. I didn't take the active heal with him, which probably a mistake on my part. I just took the passive heal and the buff item as well. But both these menfolk characters have just failed miserably and have been absolutely ransacked and punched directly in the face by the Alores. But now the Ice Witch going to get in here with her Ice Blade. Unfortunately, she doesn't do magic damage on the bear, although she does deal magic damage from Frostbite on horseback. Obviously, armor also doesn't matter too much here, but just in general, I mean, she's the one fighting and taking credit, but keep in mind that the Alores also just getting absolutely peppered by all of those dervishes. Cosmite dervishes here, also known as horse archers. Cosmite dervishes with bows, right? Very generically named horse archers. I've been doing a huge amount of damage, just in a nice concave here. Once I was able to finish off a lot of the Slaanesh mobile units, these guys have been very safe to just sit and fire, which gives me a great mobile presence, even though their bows don't do that much damage against a squishy, low armor, low HP faction like Slaanesh. The bows certainly can do enough to contribute, and then, of course, them being hybrid units, like everything in Kislev is, once they run out of ammunition, then they can charge into melee and contribute in the late game as well, especially cleaning up some of these Marauders. One thing to note, something that doesn't get talked about too much, you know, we often talk about the collision fixes in context of heavy cavalry and chariots, but, I mean, it also did affect light cavalry, too. Don't get me wrong, horse archers don't have that much mass at 600, but at the same time, you know, these Marauders only have like 100 mass, right? So it does matter in terms of the calculation on charge, even though, again, they have decent charge bonus for skirmish cavalry, especially. 30 charge is definitely not too bad, but Dawes Heart Guards continuing to hold out here. They've taken massive damage, but just helping to support the ice switch here. I think they've already used their vigor refresh. I probably burned it a little bit early there. But ice switch coming in here, dropping some more hot bombardments. I mean cold bombardments. Freezing ice cold bombardments of giant icicles raining from the sky. And some pretty good damage there. That is an overcasted version, so it is going to have some extra missiles, lasts an extra amount of time as well. We did finish off the Herald, but now the Allures is coming to play, so once more into the breach in this character duel. Well, maybe. Actually, I'm not super comfortable with my support situations here, so I'm going to try and get her out as those Kossar Spears just completely evaporated there. And try and get her over to maybe these Dawes Heart Guard. I don't know, maybe get the Horse Archers in a position to try and support. I just don't want her fighting alone against this giant blob of Slaanesh stuff, so the desperate charge of the Tsar, the Dawes Heart Guard. We're going to get in here and kind of filter through these woods. Another bombardment being dropped. A desperate last stand for Kislev, definitely, but the charge of the Kossars now, having used up all of our ammunition, does come in and break the leadership of a lot of these Marauder units now running for the hills, and unfortunately the Frost Maiden does get caught. Acquiescence debuffing by our blood passive does go off, though. We're going to see also the, I think this is the army ability, Fascination, yep, to pop the Rampage, make sure she can't get away. But once again, the Horse Archers coming in clutch, charging, getting a nice surround here. All these rear attacks, too, are going to be doing quite a bit of damage. They'll be bypassing the high melee defense of the Allures. So as long as the Frost Maiden can hold here, I mean, she is definitely paying the price. Down to 38 HP. Will she actually get killed? No, she manages to survive, just barely. And now we're going to fast forward as the Horse Archers, dervishes with bows, if you will, are going to clean up the rest of the Marauders and slowly grind down that Allures. I think the Dawes Heart Guards are also still hanging around. Yeah, kind of deciding whether or not they still want to be a part of this battle. Most likely not, but at this point it's pretty much decided. The Allures just hangs on pretty decent amount of time, and she does have very solid stats, but no armor means that in a surround, even against light units, she will take significant damage. So there you go. Big thanks to Coops for his continued support and patronage. Definitely helps, especially getting through the pre-1.2. I will say 1.2 kind of brought things back. It's revitalized interest. The player numbers dropped pretty quickly again, but just the numbers on my channel have been staying a little more consistent, so fingers crossed. Hopefully that keeps going till we can at least get some Immortal Empires news. Somebody reminded me the Skulls for the Skull Throne event takes place in June, and that's a Games Workshop general event, but Total War Warhammer is typically a part of that, right? So imagine we probably see some news in June. Definitely keep your eyes here for more info on that. But anyway, for the build here, I have to say, very impressed by the Frost Maiden's performance there, where the Boyar and the Patriarch just got wrecked. He came through, and again, I think that's more so because these two were fighting in kind of a weird situation without great support, or rather, Coops had better support in that situation, whereas then, you know, the tables kind of turned a little bit there in the end when I was able to finish off his mobility, and then these Horse Archers just came in and wrecked shop. I mean, 1204 on a unit that's this cheap, just fantastic, more than doubling their value. Likewise, the Kossar Spears, if they're able to sit and shoot, can get some crazy value, but obviously they can get ran down, killed pretty easily as well. My own light cavalry on that initial engagement did manage to get some okay value, but also got killed pretty horribly too. Coop's side, both of his characters racking up some pretty good value, but his cavalry did struggle. None of these expensive Slaanesh cavalry paid for themselves. Even the lower tier ones didn't quite. They got pretty close, so that's okay. A lot of the infantry does reasonably decent. The Furies also a little bit of a letdown. Yeah, I do think you need to bring them here just in case, but I didn't actually have any great targets for them to go after. I mean, maybe you hold them both back and try and bum rush my armored units, but like the Dawes Heart Guards have anti-infantry rights. You probably don't want to go after them. It's just a little bit janky to try and get a surround on a character too, so I don't know. There wasn't really a great use for them against my particular build, but I do like bringing them here, especially to counter something like a Winged Lancer. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.